Probably 18,999 people in the stands out of the 19,000 at one time or another, wherever they work, probably wanted to punch someone in the mouth. Whether it's their boss, someone they work with, somebody in competition with them. And they never get to do it. But they like to see someone else do it.
All right, well, this is definitely a first for me. Former NHL player and, well, I guess more so known for his power on the ice. We have Chris Nilan here, Knuckles, and we're talking about the film though, so this is entertainment. It's called The Last Gladiators. And Chris, I guess you are the expert, or tell us more about what The Last Gladiators is all about.
It's a film, basically talking about the fight game back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, early 90s, about what players go through when they have to execute that job within the game. And, they interview quite a few ex-players, and the movie is centered a little bit more around my life. Because of some of the things that happened to me after hockey. I guess it made it a little more interesting. But, it's a good film. It's a film that, I think a lot of people are intrigued by that role. They seem to always gravitate to the guys who fulfill that role. But I think people like to know a little more what it takes and what a player goes through, and that the film shows it. It tells you a lot about what goes through the guy's mind and how they feel before a game and stuff. So it's really good in that way.
Was it tough for you, Chris, or easy making this movie? And why were you so willing to tell your story?
Well, I had some issues with the painkillers, and I went on to heroin, and I ended up in a drug and alcohol treatment center in Oregon. And when I was contacted about it, I was just getting out of the treatment center and moving into a place out there because I was going to stay in Oregon for a while. And I thought about it a couple days and decided that would be a good thing to do. It was kind of an extension of my therapy. And it allowed me to keep busy. It allowed me to really, get a lot out, be vulnerable. And, that's something I never was. Where I grew up in Boston, you're not allowed to be vulnerable. And the same in the NHL locker rooms and doing the job you do, you can't really express how you feel and what you go through. And, having addressed the drug issue and the alcohol issue in treatment, they ask you to really take a look at the inside and see what's going on, and really to expose your feelings and become vulnerable. And I did, and like I said in the film, with the questions that were asked, I worked on a lot of that stuff in treatment and therapy anyway, and so it was pretty easy for me in that sense. But it was still difficult to look at yourself and really, get your ducks in a row again and get honest with yourself and where you went wrong and what you did wrong.
Okay, so now let's talk about hockey. When you were playing, it was the Gladiators that had the fans going. They would be 15,000 cheering you on as you're being in the role as the enforcer. It was almost kind of glamorized. I hate to put it that way then, but taking a look at where the game is now, Chris, and how it's played, and how fast and more stronger these players are. What is your opinion now in the game? Has it changed?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they've changed a little bit. They changed the rules more than anything. And yeah, I'd say overall it's faster, but by how much, really? I think taking the red line out is kind of opened the game up. They wanted a faster game, and they got it by taking the red line out. Back when we played, you had to come up the ice together, 5 guys. Two-line pass. You had to hold up for that red line, and they don't do that anymore. They created a lot more speed, and with that, comes issues, and those issues are, and we're seeing them, concussions. And whether it's the equipment now, guys have more equipment, better equipment, and just not having the red line in there and opening the game up like it is, you're seeing the results. I think they've kind of had a temperance movement toward fighting, with the instigator rule and no fighting the last minute of a period or the game, and I think if the NHL had its way, that they take it out, but I think they're worried about if they do, how do we put it back in? So, honestly, I think that role, the role of the enforcer, has been diminished somewhat by the league, and I think in turn, that's another reason why we're seeing the number of injuries we've gotten, especially concussions.
And there's a part in the movie, or in the trailer anyways, that really, I guess, really made me think, because back then you were there for a role, like you were there to protect. And the craziness and everything that happened with it, that was all part of your job? Is that really?
Well, yeah, basically my job first and foremost was a hockey player, and that was part of the role I fulfilled, and I didn't have a problem with it. I love fighting. I grew up fighting in the streets in Boston, where I grew up. I love fighting on the ice. I love sticking up for my friends at home in Boston. I love sticking up for my teammates. I'm sticking up for my whoever. You're a friend of mine, and you got a problem, I'll be there for you. And I didn't have a problem with my role. I enjoyed fighting. I like fighting. A lot of guys I hear, they couldn't sleep the night before a game, this and that. I never had a problem sleeping the night before the game, the afternoon before a game. I could go watch a movie the night before the game, all those things. It's not that I didn't have fear, but I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared about the fight itself, Did I have that fear in me? Yeah. When you're scared, you're basically paralyzed. You're not going to do anything, or you're so scared. You're not going to. And that fear actually kept me from getting scared. I had the fear of losing, the fear of embarrassing myself, the fear of breaking my jaw. So the fear was a good thing, and it kept me from getting scared. And I did what I had to do as far as the job, and I had no complaints with it. I never complained about my role. I did what I had to do, and what I wanted to do, more importantly, and as far as hockey. But to me, and I say it to a lot of people, that the fighting was easy for me. To be a hockey player was the difficult part, and I achieved that finally. And so I don't think I could have fulfilled that role on a nightly basis if I was just sitting on the bench. It wouldn't have been too good. I don't think I would have lasted.
Well, I know that you played with such heart, and it's so wonderful that you did win a Stanley Cup and you did experience that whole, I guess, atmosphere. But the fight that you had with your own personal struggles and to where you are today, probably the biggest fight that you've ever had to be
Yeah,
in?
no question. It doesn't even compare to that. The black eye goes away. The bumps and bruises go away. Yeah, my injuries over time. Yeah, I still feel things like that, my knee and my ankle and my hands and stuff. But the disease of addiction and alcoholism it's a terrible place to be. It's a family disease. It affects everybody in the family. It affects your relationships with everybody, and it's a terrible place to be. But I was, like I said, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to go to treatment where Brian O'Neill in the NHL stood behind me in a big way and helped me get into treatment, and they also paid for my treatment. So, a lot of times the NHL gets knocked for a lot of things, and they deserve it. But I'll be honest, they were really there for me, and it's a good feeling. I wasn't abandoned. They stepped up to the plate.
Wow. So I guess through all of this, The Last Gladiators coming to local theaters October 26th. But as you're sitting here, Chris, I want to ask you, what do you hope the people get from this movie? And we're talking about parents that might want to see this. We're talking about young kids that are very, very influenced about the whole NHL, and I'm going to be an NHL superstar.
Well, I think just overall a sense of hope that, geez, when things get tough in your life, that no matter who you are, I believe we all have the ability to climb out of whatever problem we're in, and no matter how bad it gets, when the chips are down, and I know I always have, and it's not the first time I got knocked down in my life, I've always gotten back to my feet, and I think it gives people that sense of hope, and we can, and I have, we can all redeem ourselves, and also, for the kids or people see the movie, they dream of playing the NHL one day, I'd say chase your dreams. Just because this happened to me doesn't mean it happens to everybody, and not everybody has to be a fighter either. But I think most of all is that sense of hope. And people also look at it in the movie, it talks about where I was drafted. I was drafted in the 17th round. Like, I was more or less an afterthought, and my chances of making the NHL was slim to none. And I was determined to overcome the scouts who were saying I was too slow, or I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't this enough, or I wasn't that enough. And I did that, and I hope people get that out of the movie too. And it's good. I know when people see it, I've got a lot of positive feedback from everybody, and people will make up their own mind when they see it, what they take from it.
No doubt. Well, it's people like you, Chris, that really have a wonderful sense of perseverance and tenacity and courage for everything that you've gone through, and we appreciate it. And what a wonderful way to tell your story to the rest of us.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words.
Thank you. Chris Nilan, The Last Gladiators.